All right, so I'm getting a little bit too much variation out pretty far to distance at like 50 right now, but I made some minor adjustments on the HHA with the RX10 Ultra, and I'm gonna try to just kind of keep it close for now. I'm gonna mess around with it a little bit till I get this a little more fine-tuned. I just don't want to shoot out too far right now. I do want to, but I don't feel super strongly it's a good idea with this setup. I am feeling more and more that maybe this arrow is a little too weak spined for what I'm trying to set up, and I'm getting a variation that tells me that. You know, basically, when you have a weaker spine, you can tell when you get that consistent, you know, wobble or whatever in the flight. I am going to try to paper tune it first, just to see if maybe there's something weird about it, but it's probably the spine. But I'm going to try my best. I'm going to see how close I am here at the 20, just to kind of see, but I am getting a variation that's kicking it quite a bit, and then sometimes I don't, so I'm just not sure. I think I need to go to the drawing board and really look at it from a tuning perspective first. Yeah, and just see what's going on when I'm getting some weird flight, and that typically tells me right off the bat that I'm probably underspined for this setup, especially if the initial weight when I pulled it out of the box was about 75 pounds. It probably needs to be tuned for sure for this arrow setup specifically. One of those tall tails, and I say tall tails, but telltales. It's not a crazy story. It's a telltale, or whatever the hell it's called. It in the variation of the speed for your regular stuff. What always tells me the difference is as I start to lighten the poundage, which I'll do now, just to kind of see, as you slowly bring the poundage down, from wherever that's at anyway, it's probably going to help your arrow flight with a weaker spine, mainly because it's just not putting that extra force on it. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just jump the gun. I'm going to take 2 full turns, line it up, and make sure I'm still in that area. I have it a quarter turned out from maxed out right now. So as long as I keep that pretty much the same, I'll get 2 full turns out of it for now. I'm gonna turn it back up, but what that might tell me right now is with those turns out of it, I'm, you know, maybe 1 or 2 turns will take anywhere between 4 to 8 pounds off of a bow, even sometimes more. Being that this came in super hot anyway at 75 for a 70-pound draw bow, I'm thinking I probably just took a little more than that 70 pounds to maybe 68, 69 on the draw. So let's see. Oh yeah, like it takes that edge off real easy. But I'm getting a little bit better arrow flight, albeit it's probably way one side or the other. I can see it when the arrow comes off, and I'm thinking I need to just probably toy with the actual D-loop a little bit. It might be just a hair tight, and I'm getting slight knock pinch on top of being underspined. But see, I'm already getting like a much better direct arrow flight that's, you know, shooting laser beams. That'll just come down to being underspined, for one, but I think if I can really get it down to that 70 pounds, the way it's shooting right now with this arrow setup, and I could get it to paper tune right in that 70 pound area, because even right now, I definitely took some weight off that sucker, because I mean, the draw cycle just got that much smoother, getting that little bit of weight off. Yeah, let's see, got another variation of flight, hoping that's wind. But I think also that I'm on the edge of that spine for this bow, kicking out these arrows the way it has been. I might be just borderline, and I'm used to shooting a 340 to a 300 spine in an Easton, and I typically always go back to the 300 spine because it gives me the weight ratio that I like. They're a very solid arrow. I have found that even the 340s are probably not nearly as strong as the 300s. I've shot some 300s into some crazy stuff. I actually had a really bad miss one time and hit a brick wall solid with the full 78 pounds on my other RX10ultra, and it just bounced off the wall. It didn't actually smash the insert in or anything like that. It dulled my tip pretty good, but it put a hole in that brick wall. So it's just one of those things. The 300 just seems to put up with a lot of abuse, and honestly, as bad as I shoot, it probably is needed. But these 340s are just a little lighter DPI, and I was trying to vary some of the weight. So, you know, see what I'm getting some better flight out of it now that I took a little bit of weight out of the draw cycle. But I'm still thinking I'm just a little underspined for this setup, because it's kicking them out pretty decent. I still want to carry that kinetic energy, but I just don't want my arrow to flex that much. A little bit of flex is fine, but sometimes I'm getting kind of like a curve, a slight curve on some of them, which means to me that I also have maybe a slight spine issue. If it was just flight and it was kicking one way or the other, that would just be a tuning issue. But with it bending the way it is, you can tell most of the time when you see somebody else shooting a super underspined arrow that the flight's really strange, or can be really strange one way or another, which can always be a tuning issue as well, but it's typically that those spines are just a little too soft for how much weight you're drawing and how much you're kicking out. These arrows are being used for 3D, outdoor, indoor shooting, and I wanted to see if they would also work for hunting scenarios, because it's a little bit on the heavier side, but it was the setup I wanted to try as far as getting that FOC and meeting that weight ratio to slightly compensate for the weight that's on the back of the arrow with the lighted knock, the floor fletch back there, and a wrap. A lot of times I don't run a wrap. It just adds extra weight back there. It looks cool. It's a lot easier to find my arrows. That's why I like to do them for 3D and different stuff like that, because it's not a real hunting scenario. But I like testing them out, because in the real world, sometimes that could be the difference in how your arrow flies and how it tunes and different things like that. But that's why I test things, because maybe I'm a hard learner. I just enjoy seeing a product after you've kind of put it together the way you want it, and you kind of try to get a little science behind it as well as other people's inputs. But I am getting better flight. I will say that I'm getting better flight out of the arrow with a little less poundage, and that could just be the difference of spine, and that's the only thing that I've really changed. Besides, it's still pretty windy out here. I know a lot of people right away would just be like, well, how come you didn't tune? Because I'm trying different arrows. I'm not going to tune an arrow to my bow until I'm pretty close to being comfortable with it, and then I dial tune it in. I've shot tons of arrows, and I've always tried to go with you know, things that I'm comfortable with, but also that makes me confident after I've done it, that I've done everything that I could to perfect my setup. That way, when I'm out there, I'm not second guessing myself. I'm not messing around. I'm not thinking, oh man, these arrows suck, that kind of stuff. And it doesn't, for me, it doesn't matter what arrow you choose, as long as you choose a good arrow that you're comfortable with and that you can shoot confidently with. And then hopefully whatever you can afford, as well as whatever you can put up with. Because I've bought some arrows a few different times and just had them break what seemed like constantly after tuning. You know, and it just didn't put up with the durability tests that I've put them through. You know, these Axis arrows in the 300 spine in particular, I can speak and attest to that I have shot those into some stupid stuff on accident, and I still had arrows afterwards. You know, some shots you just can't recover from. I've shot a couple of them through an actual, you know, pretty layered metal fence. If I had missed the edge of it, it probably would have whacked it and hit the ground and been fine. I hit it and it hit dead center on a pretty decent piece of the fence, and it side slapped it and it cut that arrow into pieces through the fence, which even that, I was impressed that it was what it is at that point. I've missed a target that I have set up outdoors and have a big tractor tire behind it, and it's a backstop. When I was sighting in, I had a bad shot, missed the bag by, you know, an inch. It went past and went through that tractor tire from side to side, and I pulled it out, and it was still shootable. You know what I mean? Like, I checked it, I spine checked it, I did everything, and it was still shootable. It's one of those things that I think the investment is worth it when you have stuff like that. I've definitely had like FMJs and stuff like that. I even had Hunter. I forget, but I've tried a bunch of different arrows, and this one seems to be like the lucky penny, or maybe the unlucky penny that keeps coming back, because I've got dozens of them, and I've tried different variations of them, and they're just durable. They're strong. I've put titanium inserts. I've done aluminum inserts. I've done weight up front with you know, the different weighted setups, collars, all that stuff. But these are the most durable. In the 300 spine, they have been the most durable arrows that I've shot. I went to these 340s to lose a little bit of weight and add some contrasting FOC with the weight I'm adding to the back of the arrow itself. But I think ultimately I'm gonna have to make some different changes and rely on Old Faithful. I'll go through kind of some of these arrow builds, but everything's been built before. It's always comes down to preference and, you know, how the hunter hunts and what they prefer. I have friends that, you know, they shoot some of the lightest arrows for hunts that I've heard of, and they're traveling super fast. They want all the speed that they can, and they carry the speed, and they're very successful with that setup. And they don't even have that high of an actual GPI or grains per inch, versus like an FOC in the front. They put a regular 100 grain head up front. I think their total weight is probably anywhere between 400 or less, which is crazy. But I mean, they get solid pass-throughs all the time, and I'm like, that's amazing. And they're also shooting slightly lighter poundage, so like you have to have that variation. Super sharp broadhead that's tuned correctly, and these guys are just speed freaks. And that's kind of maybe even an old school way of looking at hunting instead of the kinetic energy and stuff like that. But hey, if it works and you're able to shoot, you know, 50 to 55 pounds, and you're getting practically complete pass-throughs with an arrow that's that light but has a super good sharp broadhead that's been tuned, it's hard to argue with the results. That's one of the things that I'm finding is bag limits met is hard to argue with. You can't argue with that. A lot of tag outs with those kind of setups, and they've been doing it for years. And honestly, when it comes down to all this tinkering that I do, if it's not broken, don't fix it. That's what it comes down to. The only thing in this variation that I'm trying is I like the four fletch. I do like the way they steer. I do notice that they slow down just a hair, but I'm thinking I'm gonna have to put in some real work to find the arrow setup that fits what I want, and fits the weight that I prefer. I may even go lighter with this four fletch, as long as my combined weight is still in that 400 to 450 range, and pick up some extra speed. But as long as my spine will hold up, because these 340s are worrying me a little bit, because I'm already at that 70 pounds right now, maybe even 68, and some of them are still having a slight bend when I shoot them, but a lot of them have straightened out almost perfectly like darts. So, and then I'll go from there to really micro tune it in. But we'll see. More to come. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.